Hey everybody, welcome to Trading Price Patterns. My name is Mike Pepper. Sitting in for Rachel, who is out. She's going to be out presenting, I believe, this weekend on the road with Ben and Barb. Folks, it is good to be with you. And what a cool class! What an awesome class! Not just you guys, you guys for sure that are here with us today. But my gosh, trading price patterns, amazing! Price patterns are so cool because we get so many setups with price patterns. We get flag patterns, we get cup and handle patterns. We could just call it maybe tea time today. You know what I mean? With all the cup and handles out there. So we've got a few things to look at today. Some rounded bottoms, folks. You name it. There's some interesting scenarios and setups out there. So looking forward to getting into it today. Um, did catch Josh's comment just getting started here about keeping the energy up today. Yeah, I don't know if I keep it up to Boyd's level. I might be able to break above Boyd's level today, James's level today, but on a regular basis, yeah, that's a tough bar to reach there, Josh. But welcome to all you guys. I'm joined in the chat by a great friend of mine, Kevin Horner, a great colleague, and appreciate Kevin being on board. Always have great confidence when he's here with us, folks, and definitely be sure to check out what Kevin's got online. Got some great stuff online to take a look at. It starts the day off every day for our group. Does Kevin with just some great setups, great discussions in the Trader Talk. So with all that, hey, what do you say we dive on into our discussion? Let's hit some disclosures first to get the show on the road here, folks. Information here is for general information purposes only and should not be considered an individualized recommendation. Now, Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as a sole means of investment research. Paper money software application is for education purposes only. Now, with long options, investors may lose 100% of the funds invested, right? That's one of the aspects of them for sure. Since I mentioned that, I don't think we'll talk about options, but it does state up top too, options carry a high level of risk not suitable for all investors. Now, investing does involve risk, including loss of principal. There's no guarantee that the execution of a stop order will be at or near the stop price, and past performance is no guarantee of future results. All right, well, let's do it. Let's get the show on the road here and get started up. Get looking at, just generally speaking, real quick, just first off, hey, what is the price pattern of the market, or is there one? You know, we came down a little bit now. You can see the S&P 500 index is dipping just a little bit here. Just dip, dip, dip. Will that be a flag pattern or not? I'm just curious because we had been holding up pretty well over here, over here in this range, kind of like a bull flat. And we have had a tendency to rally towards the end of the year. Now, we still might, but yes, we are still kind of dipping down a little bit. So, generally speaking, upward trend. Okay, we've got the trend in our side. We are testing resistance. There's just no doubt about it, folks. That's resistance right there, right up top. And so we have to say there's still resistance, but can't ignore, left-hand side, the right-hand side, folks. I don't know about you, but that arrow looks to be pointing up to me. It may flag here, and I will say this too. That is a higher low at this point. So, you know what would be fascinating right here for a lot of traders, I think? A lot of traders. They might say, hey, why don't we just get a hold? All these downward days, could we just get one? That might be our first indication of a sign. I did a class, Thinks Group class last week where we were looking at Jesse Livermore's setups, and one of his that I've learned about is just, can you just give me a higher low? We haven't had that either. Low, 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 low. No hold, no higher low. Whatever way you want to look at it, it's still coming down. So a lot of times traders stay on the sidelines until that occurs, but fascinating part is you know what we're dealing with? That's supposed to be a 5, not an S. 500 companies. You can imagine in 500 companies, there are going to be some. They're going to be doing this. Some that are doing this. And yes, even some. Markets to do one of three things, actually. Up, down, or sideways. But we're going to be looking at those that might be forming maybe some bullish scenarios, because generally the underlying market, the trend here, folks, is clearly to the upside here. So we want to take advantage of that for sure as we get into it. Now, welcome to all you guys. JD's here, as well as Will, David. Great to see you guys. I mentioned Josh earlier and others. So let's, hello to you, Scott, and everybody else. Wild Goose is here too. All right. Well, let's get going. Let's start off with I want to start off initially. I mentioned to you there's a lot of cup and handle patterns out there. As I mentioned, my producer was saying, earlier, he says, hey, maybe, it's like tea time out there. Because I was telling him how many cup and handles. So I did borrow that from him. I appreciate it. That was a cool little note that he had there. This is a long-term one. I talked about this in my class yesterday. This is Intel. And as you can see with Intel, we are still coming down just like the markets, just like the NASDAQ is as well. Take a look at this with me. That, friends, this is a long term cup and handle, and then still make a higher high right there. That's a higher high. Whatever way you want to cut it, that's a higher high, and that is a higher low right now as it stands. Now, today is not a great day. It's down 80 cents, a little over 2%, but it is down. The whole thing here is that's a fascinating price pattern that can be extended. And this just goes to show how long this cup can be. Extended tea time, folks, for this cup. Whoa. What are we talking about? This is that's 24. Yeah, we're mid 24 here. Where did we get out of this at? Not even mid 25. Towards the end of 25, we started to kind of come up and show the cup. So that was 1 year plus. Fascinating. Now, within these two, it's always great, and I love to see them. And I like to have my eyes I force myself to try to recognize what's going on. Because I'm going to do a little image here, right here. When you get these two connected like this, that right there, that's a connection. There's a couple of gaps in there. There's a couple of gaps. And that refers to as an island reversal. I can't even tell you how many price patterns there are in here. There are so many price patterns, folks. There's probably price patterns within price patterns, but we have an island reversal. You get that oftentimes on negative earnings, positive earnings, rally up. Folks, this too, by the way, rounded bottom. You add all this together, you get a cup and handle, and at the end of that cup and handle, you get flag patterns. There's 4. I just named off 4 right off the top of my head looking at it, but they're fascinating to look at. What is, you might say, Mike, you went through all this stuff. Well, tell us what is the trajectory, the projection of the price pattern. Well, oftentimes what you're honestly doing is you're taking the cup and handle, and oftentimes you're taking the largest range. This is just the initial projection. Now, whether it makes that or not, it could still continue higher, especially with rounded bottoms that have a tendency to be longer term in nature. There's a crazy one from Apple years ago. I want to say at the end of 2008, 2009, it had a rounded bottom too. And if you just took the initial projection, yeah, you'd be behind several hundred points. In other words, it really formed a base that it rallied off of. Of course, a lot of stocks did it in that era. But point being, you take the high, you take the low. What is the high? What is the low? Well, that's actually the high of the range. You take this, you measure this, and that's the point you could get off of your handle. Now, was this the handle right here? Probably. And then we're getting kind of a second handle. We'll see if that does unfold. But I mean, I'm just saying that's a cup and handle right there. It did break up. Could be getting another one here. We'll wait and see. But it's kind of a measured move is what you're looking at. You could say a more conservative measured move. Boom, boom. Okay, what do we have there? That's a little bit of a range. I mean, that's a 1, 2, 3. So those are, 5, 10, 15, maybe, 20. If you add here, close to 15, 20 points in that range, 17 or so to the upside. And that could put us above. I'm just kind of eyeballing it up here too. Somewhere in here, perhaps, for initial projection. That's a conservative estimate. A bigger estimate would be up here at these highs. I wanted to run through that because, folks, gosh, we got a lot of cup and handles to take a look at. So let's talk about the projections, first of all, what they could look like. Cup and handle. There you go. All right. Well, we've got more cup and handles out here. And, this is the other one. I'm just going to do 2 from my swing trading class, which we do a lot of price pattern recognition or trading that short-term time frame. So I'm just going to pull up these 2. This is one we actually have a paper trade on right now. So just ignore those OCO bracket orders. But notice over here, too, a bit of a cup and handle to a degree. It's not as nearly as big, but I'm just going to draw it. There was a big gap over here. I believe David pointed out yesterday on one of these. It was really interesting to see, but there you go. That could be kind of a cup and handle as well. Do we have an island reversal? We do. Gap. The market saw this as positive earnings. Positive, right? The market saw this over here. Oh, looky here. I've got the red. A negative earnings. That's what creates those gaps. Gap down, consolidation, price pattern. And like I said, where does it come at the end? It comes right here and this is the beauty of this, it comes in something that you guys might very well recognize because Rachel does such a good job of addressing these, and that is a simple flag pattern right there. We're saying the flag, but we have rounded bottom behind the scenes. We've got an island reversal behind the scenes, and ultimately this whole formation is like a cup and handle. And by the way, let me give you guys a little hint that I gathered after reading a few books on price patterns, and one that just stuck out to me, and I hope it sticks out to you. That's why I'm sort of emphasizing it here. Is that a lot of times the cup and handles, oh, you know what? Let me just draw it and then you'll see it. This is worth your while, trust me. If I had to read 3 books to find it, it might be something of use. Here is your standard cup and handle right there, okay? Now, the cup and handles, they could be something like this too. It could come down here and handle. Notice the difference? I'm going to give you 3 of them. Notice any differences here. Oftentimes what traders will look for, folks, is are those, this is kind of the same height, those that can exceed the top. You could almost say, if I wanted to give it a scale, like a power scale of strength, 1, 2, and 3, and 1 being the strongest. I guess I should have said power 3 would be stronger. 3, 2, 1, whatever you want to look at it. 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. The strongest ones could be here. And why is that? You are breaking above resistance and oftentimes resting on a prior high right there. So yes, there are distinctions where strength could come through, and that is what was discussed. Look over here with me, folks. Do you see it over here now? We just barely. Intel is much, much stronger, but look at this right here. You did break above the high, and then you consolidated. Went below these levels, but still, nonetheless, you did. We're up a little bit today on this stock. And to be honest with you guys, just real quick, it did make a lower low in this, longer term, well, potentially longer term breakout. But do this. See that trend line right there? We're still below that trend line. So it might be kind of resting before this price target, which we looked at, was the flag pattern right there. All right, there we go. Let's continue on. There's a lot of these. They're fascinating to look at. Here's another one, and this is just barely kind of forming, potentially forming. CRM. CMR is not a stock. CRM Salesforce, short term. This is not a long one. Here you go. This guy's been down for a while. Look at that weekly. Woo! Been down but bouncing. Here, let's zoom in on it right now. You see it on a short-term basis? There's kind of your cup and handle. You guys would recognize this too. This is fascinating too, because what we're doing now is we're going to take candlesticks, and we're going to insert them, because the candlestick is kind of like the trigger for a lot of traders. Hey, do we get in? At this point, do we get out if it's bearish or whatever the case might be? Do you guys see anything there of interest? I'm just going to draw this. It's short-term in nature, and it was powered by an earnings announcement again, which a lot of these cup and handles are. This is kind of shorter term in nature. It did round over here, but it's a different kind of a cup and handle. Some could say it's a longer term. I'm just going to stick to the shorter term one right here and just call it like a flag pattern at this point right now. But what my eyes are focusing in on, folks, is this area right over here. Getting back to what I just said about candles. Right here. 1, 2, and 3 candles. Interesting. Think about it. Wild Goose says, yeah, maybe a TTM squeeze going on. A volatility price compression. Interesting. Yep. Okay. Come on over here and look at this. Let's go down and let's look at this. This is the flag up, flag pattern. What are we getting at the end of the flag pattern, folks? Right now, a morning star pattern. That's the 1, 2, and 3. Do you see it? Morning star at the end of the flag, potentially the end of a cup and handle, which is potentially at the end of a longward downward move over here with, if it were to rally, I mean, maybe there's some upward gains over here at stake, right? Potentially something coming up here. All right. Hey, Sharon, you know the name of the book? I don't know if I'm able to just share it right here. If I am, let me send it out in my X handle, okay? I'll send that out to you guys on X. I'll post it there. Promise. Okay. I'll look into that and see if I can share it or talk, at least reference it, whatever the case is. Seems like yeah, I'll double check on that. Thank you, though. Yeah. All right. Let's continue on. But that is something. By the way, did you guys hear that my house squeaking right there? The wind is so strong right now. We're supposed to have a big storm today, and I think it's blowing over to Colorado. Sometimes if the wind gets so strong coming off of the mountains, 35-degree gusts are not uncommon at all. And so what is nice is oh, sorry, Kevin. You might be getting all that snow, but you might want that snow in your yard. Right now, I'm enjoying the mountain biking. But if you hear that, I apologize. It's just the wind. I have no control over that wind right now. It is loud. All right. All right. So there's the RM. One thing too is did it break above this range? No, it didn't. But we could wait and see what does unfold here too. You know, I mean, if it does break higher, you could still wait, but that's kind of the morning star, and you could wait for the follow through right there. Okay, yeah, Kevin. Yeah, every once in a while, what'll happen is I've noticed that you guys do get Kevin. There's a state adjoining us here, Colorado, just to our east. We'll get that snow if the wind really hits hard on a supposedly snowy day. It's supposed to be a snowy day, and it didn't. And in fact, it shows clear now today. So, all right, there we go. Man, still cup and handles, you guys. APO, Apollo Global. You can see it. You guys have got to be able to. You're spotting these now. I know you are. Do you see the cup? This is early, potentially early in that candle phase. Before we get there, let's see. So it's right at 150, which is kind of a big round number as well. We gapped up. You could say it sort of got started here too. It did get started with a little bit of an earnings gap, kind of got the momentum going, kind of helped to formulate a higher low in here. You'd have to say that would be basically what we were looking at, maybe the possibility of a power one, based on the scale I said, or the highest power right there. It did break above that high, resting near that level right now, and it could be positioned for a rally. You can see that. Gosh, it's so good. So today's interesting because not only are we just looking at we're looking at cup and handles, but you know, it's potentially the bull flag that's forming in here right now that could be setting up. Now, was today the lowest low? Where are we in terms of the hold? Well, that was the low. Jesse Livermore might be saying, hey, after today, you might be getting a higher low, but not a close above the high of the low day yet. We did test it right there, but that's that confirmation. And I would say, I think it was the Horner rule. The Horner rule is the Kevin Horner rule, and that is you're looking for a couple of days. And I like that too. And by the way, that could be very interesting on our last scenario that set up with CRM. A couple of days. Let me just circle back to that because I did want to put a paper trade on that as well, CRM. Right over here, let's zoom in. Let's go to a shorter term time frame. There we go. We can kind of see that a little bit better, but here we go. So yeah, you might actually, if you had maybe even one more bar over here, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but I believe you get maybe the bottom and then a couple 2 days in there, something like that. And a lot of times that's where you're really just waiting for that additional confirmation for the move to occur. But let's do this. Let's go ahead and put on an example trade on this. And we'll put those targets in place as well for the underlying bull flag. Okay, so the bull flag would be from the low to the high. I want to get this going here. So yeah, low to high, that's our general range that the price could move. If I just copy this or duplicate it, in fact, I'll duplicate it this time. I'll pull this guy over and just show you where that goes to. There you go. Just barely off our screen. Look at that, right near the 300 level. So sometimes these are just natural sort of barriers too. 200, 300, 100, whatever the case might be, but it's right at that level. If it were to run, you get maybe a couple of different reasons as to why this could be an interesting time to exit if it were to unfold that way, okay? But we're just looking at it right now as getting started. Now, it is expensive. It's $260. So what I'll do, I'll start this off with 25 shares. And we could also look at using a little bit of money management, which I do use quite a bit in the swing trade class, and that is if you take out what we refer to as the T1 high, the T1 high, that is the high, the last high of the move. So that's the target one. Target two would be this extended move to the upside over here. But if we can break above T1, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll add another 25 shares as an example here. And that would get us past, let's say, the Horner rule, because we unless we have a huge run today, but we might be getting an additional confirmation that could also break us above that resistance level and get us maybe moving towards that big round number of 300. So let's do it. Let's start over here. We'll go to the trade tab, and we'll take a look at what those exits look like as well, those potential exits in the form of stops. So let's go over here. I'm going to go buy custom with OCO bracket order. Let's go over here. First and foremost, I'm going to change this. I locked it all up. Let's go to 25, tab through, make sure everything's lined up. Just 25 shares, OCO bracket. Next important thing to do is make sure we've got our orders in. Our day order, no, we're going to go good till cancel. We don't want the stop orders to exit before we're done. You know, I'm going to put 299 over here. Sometimes I'll put them just a point below. You could go whatever, 298. It was close to that target anyways. And let's knock this down a little bit too. So 250, and then we'll look and see what that downward exit looks like as well. Okay, we good here? Again, we're just starting it off with 25, but we can add to it with a break above that T1 level to get to T2. So in other words, we're waiting for confirmation of more strength. And what does that mean? Confirmation of the cup and handle, maybe the cup and handle confirmation, right? Or the flag pattern, the cup and handle, right? If it unfolds, we don't. All right, let's take a look at the confirm and send, just to give us a general sense of what's going on over here. You can see some of the numbers are listed right here on the order confirmation dialog, just going down here and seeing where you're at. Okay, on each of these. Okay, let's go ahead and send this guy on through right now, and then we'll adjust our potential exits, and boom, there we go, we got it. The great thing about this is too, of course, with the platform is what just happened? Where are my exits? What happened? I don't even have a position. This is crazy. Sorry, guys. That went through as an option order. What the heck was that all about? All right. Well, we talked about option orders. I'm going to close this right now. That was bizarre. I swear I put in an option order there. Hold on. Let's make sure they had one contract too. Weird. No, it had, yeah, there's nothing there. Let me just zoom in over here. Take a look at our physician. Working orders, field orders, there it is. All right. It bought the option, sorry. I'm gonna go ahead and just go into that option and cancel that out. Sure, that's something I did wrong. Maybe I did something at the end, but I swear I put that in. That's so weird. All right, never happened to me before. Let's do this again. Because remember the numbers I was adjusting over here were setting up, right? Was it? Maybe it was, I don't know. No, no, that's bizarre. All right, let me just go back right where we were. And I never put any 300 there, or 299. 299, come down here, 250, whatever, tab through. Yeah, isn't that nuts? It's crazy. I don't know, you guys. Let's do this again. And even as I read this, oh, yeah, it did show the option, though. That's why you read it. I just need to go through and not talk about it, but actually read it myself. But anyways, we canceled it out. Hey, we turns out we did do an option order. That was a long option, by the way. And it showed some scenarios and setups in there. But here you go. So that's our CRM, and you've got the buying power effect. That was weird, though. I was like, hit confirm and send on that one. It gave me an option. Whoa. Yeah, paper money. There we go. This is what I was after, by the way, all that for this. But yeah, so there you go. I'm going to just drag this down a little bit. just below maybe the top of where that top projection could be. Look down here with me, folks. What do you want to put for a potential exit? I'm putting it just below this level. Now, one of the cool things too, when you use a little bit of money management, is maybe you're only losing, if it goes against you, maybe you're only losing $25, right? You got 25 shares per point coming down, 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 down. Not a lot. And there was something that was typed into the chat about potential potential reward and potential risk, right? And what are we saying here? Well, let's draw it. This was the potential. We'll say reward first. If it hits the reward, what do you see? That's the price range for the possible reward. What about the downside? Right there. Somebody said a 3-to-1 reward risk. Yeah, I think you could fit 3 blocks in there. Maybe even 4, 3.5, 4 within that range. So something like the risk would be something like a 1, and the reward, if we're looking at it this way, would be something like a 3 plus, maybe 4, close to 4. Okay. That's what we're getting. That's what's so cool about these flag patterns as well. Right. Right. So yes, that I'm sure that was weather interference. That was the wind that caused that option to pop up. Just a quick note too. We read these earlier, but just options carry high level risks. They're not super for all investors. And we said that already, but there you go. We did get an option trade under our belt due to weather interference. Good call. All right. Now let's keep it rolling. What about EPAM? EPAM. Okay, what do we have here? Well, I'll tell you what we've got. I'm going to back out, and you're going to see this too, as a little bit, it's sort of like a cup and handle-ish. What I could say with this, though, one thing we could say is that the trend has changed. We've broken above some resistance, and if nothing else, it doesn't necessarily have to be a cup and handle. You can still pick it up by looking at the flag pattern itself. There's kind of a flag here. Higher highs, folks, higher lows, and this tendency is what it comes down to. I call it kind of like a tendency because it's sort of the structure of the trend. It's a bit of a staircase, is it not? We took out the highs, and what do we do? We drifted. Oh, positive earnings. Okay, we lifted up again, drifted down slightly. Well, we're kind of doing the same thing again. And how many times have we seen this kind of a pattern continue? Maybe that's something that a trader could be looking at. That could be a consideration. A key point here is what happens with that volume when prices begin to dip a little bit. It's something like that. As prices are coming down, maybe we get a little bit of decrease in volume. And we had a couple of bigger days right there, but generally speaking, you like volume to show an upward trend over here, which is what we saw. But then maybe when it comes time to sell off a little bit, you like to see it a little bit weaker. Okay, or a little bit weaker right there. All right. So that's a consideration. And by the way, that could be kind of a substantially big flag too if we were looking at it. Again, let's do that metric, that measurement. Just using that diagonal line as a measuring tool. Click it one time. In this case, what I'll do is I'll just activate it and pull it right up to where our flag is. Where's our flag? We don't know. We don't know where it's going to end, but wherever it ends, at the bottom, and let's say we get a hold and we get some other indication of that, what we could do then is just simply grab it and pull on it. Pull it back down to the bottom of whatever that is. And this might be the bottom right here. If this were to come like this, if that's the bottom, well, we drag it. Well, what if this is the bottom? You guessed it. We are simply just going to drag it, click on it, and drag it down. I'd like to keep these on my chart. That's one of the really nice things. Well, actually, Kevin and I used to talk about this a lot when we were talking about the Thinkorswim platform, but one of the things we'd always bring up is the drawing tools remain. Doesn't matter where I'm at. In fact, even if we were using, things from the past, it's just going to stay on our charts. And so it gives us, there's a lot of information built into this. Folks, it could be the potential target of the price pattern we're looking at. So I keep them on. I think it's a useful tool. Wherever it ends up being for now, we'll just drag this guy right up there. But again, highlighting not just the benefit of the Thinkorswim platform, but the potential benefit of that flag pattern. Say if it does unfold and we get that T2 target. Hammer pattern. Somebody mentioned. Thea says it. Hey, Thea. Yeah, is it? Um, is that a hammer pattern? Uh, let's see. That's an inverted hammer right there, isn't it? Right now, as it stands. That's kind of doji-ish right there. I'm used to the hammers doing this kind of thing. They go like this, you know. They hammer to the wick is to the downside, not the upside. But the funny thing is, if you read those candlestick books, speaking of books, that was really one of the first books I read in 1995 when it came to technicals. And that was, you know, they can be similar, even though you get an hammer, inverted hammer at the bottom, shooting star on the top, but they can be a similar kind of a read. You know, see, that's an inverted, that's kind of more hammerish right there at the bottom of that run. Yeah, good catch though. It's very, very interesting. You guys, I got to show you this one. Okay, so here's Apple. I wanted to show you, first of all, here's Apple, and Apple had been doing what? Well, it's been kind of flagging like it had been for a while here too. But I did tell you guys that Apple had an amazing cup and handle. Look at this. This is funny. I'll go back to 2008. I don't do this very often, but you know what? Look at that. Do you see it? You see the rounded bottom? There was a little bit of a cup and handle. There was certainly a longer term inverse head and shoulders. I brought this up, but I thought I'd just I want to show you guys because, oh, where is it? What did I do? Oh, that went all the way back to 04. Ah, all right. Right there in front of your eyes. These can knock out and put in place longer term moves, particularly after prices have been going up. Look at that. Look at the price of that. Even after all those splits. Folks, if we had a time machine, we could all travel back together and load up. That's, you know, after adjusted for splits, I mean, that's so low, really, for Apple. But hey, let's get to the price pattern. This was one of these sort of longer term cup and handles, just reminiscing on the past. But remember, we can gain foresight to use these in the future based on what we see happening in the past. That was like, I'd say, a level 2 cup and handle as well. Not even the highest one, but you see the rounded bottom in there? If you look close to, not just a rounded bottom, but a shoulder, head, shoulder, and then you retested it and you broke out. So an inverted head and shoulders pattern, or a head and shoulders bottom pattern, whatever the case might be is, folks. But what really gets crazy is when you just back out of this guy. Watch this. So what was the original target? Let's do that first. From the highest point to the lowest point, I'm just going to eyeball it, and I'm just going to say, yeah, probably a projection like up to there or so. Maybe that's even too high. Maybe to this high right there. Yeah, I think that's it right there. So sometimes it'll hit right off those levels and come down. That's your level. $5. Wow. Well, we got a little bit more out of it than 5. In fact, if we just keep backing out. Oh, now we're at, we're a little higher now, aren't we? But in other words, they can form. I saw one of these happen on Cracker Barrel as well, CRBL, a long time ago too. And it was this longer term cup and handle. So there's something to keep an eye on sometimes. And they do tie in to long-term kind of fundamental changes, like the financial fundamentals kind of can shift, and it's kind of a turnaround in the company sometimes. Anyways, that's what traders will look at those as being from time to time. By the way, that's kind of an interesting little pattern right there, breaking out of the range as well. I didn't even mean to go to Apple. I was just going to show you guys this, but this was one we were looking at in the swing trade class. We tried in this class, in the swing trade class that I teach on Tuesdays, we tried to do an earlier trade before we got a hold, before we got the Jesse Livermore indication as well. We tried, and we died. We never closed above the high of the low bar, and it just kept going. In fact, we're still waiting to close above the high of the low bar. Isn't that fantastic? Isn't that impressive? Showing a little bit of patience and waiting for prices to just get above the high of the low bar, just to the very basics at the end of a price pattern, at least in terms of like starting to get into that pattern itself, right? I mean, what's the benefit? Well, better prices, maybe. Lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low, lower low. Whoa, I'm buying lower now. I'm buying lower than I was even over here, just by being a little bit more patient and letting the letting the stock kind of tell us what to do towards the end of the pattern instead of us saying, let's get in. Now, just to be fair, in that swing trade class, I didn't say, we said we're going to test this out with 25 shares. And if it goes against us, you guys will see how we just get knocked out of 25 shares only, as opposed to 100 or 200 or whatever somebody would put in for an expected flag pattern before a little bit of confirmation. Sometimes you can get in early. We were going to add to it if it went up, but guess what, folks? It went south. And by going south, we didn't lose as much. But I just want to say that that's what you can do. So I just wanted to highlight, yeah, we didn't go all in. It was actually staged that way so we could kind of test it out a little bit and see what that looks like. But there you go. So still, look at this, kind of a long structure of trends, though, of the trend sort of unfolding, though. Would you agree? Higher highs, flag. Higher lows. I should say higher high, higher low, flag. Higher high, higher low, flag. And it was that kind of consistency, that we were watching within this. But yeah, it's still dragging. And by the way, Apple's had a tendency to sort of drag on some of these. So you can always just sort of wait and get in a little bit later. Hey, you guys, I did send this out specifically for you guys in this class. Be sure to follow Kevin and I on X, Kevin Horner CS, Mike Fairboard CS. I threw this in for you guys. You might appreciate it. Not this. Well, that too. But this right here. Just part of building that price pattern recognition. Just a little bit of a cheat sheet I throw in here. There are going to be some additional patterns that you'll find. And again, folks, patterns within. That's right. Patterns within patterns. I'll post this in right here. If you want to take a look at it, it can be helpful. It was reading and going through just, actually, you can read about it, but it's the consistency of going through and going through and going through until you see it so much, you start to see patterns within patterns, etc. Yeah, be sure to join Kevin Horner CS as well. But there you go. You can take a look at it, folks. All right. Love to have you follow us there is one thing. There you have it. All right. So a little cheat sheet there. Great. Now, should we put a trade on Apple yet, folks? I'm going to hold off. I got a hit over here in our swing trade class on that paper trade. We're going to wait on this paper trade as well until we get above that level. But some cool things you could do is just potentially say, there you go right there. There's the high of the low bar right there, or very close to it. That's the high. That is the low of this entire range, clearly. If we get above that guy, watch this. I'm going to right click. You guys can see where I'm pointing, right? Oh, now you really can. Right here. I'm just pointing right to the top of that range, very close to it. We're all the way down here. But let me know. Right click. Create alert. Bam, bam, bam. Right there. At or above this level. I'm just going to do this. Hold question mark. I've put down here, if you want to get that, sent to you, you got to come down here under the notify with and make sure that you've got this, sent to your mobile devices, okay? So I just want to make sure you guys have that. A quick note on that, because there have been some issues that do come up with alerts, and there's been some questions on it. I just want to state this real quick. Alerts aren't guaranteed to be delivered at any time, any specific at any specific speed or time frame, and should not be used as a replacement for actively being aware of your positions and the market activity surrounding them. Sorry, there was just a lot of details that had come out on this, and so we wanted to just make sure everybody's familiar with it. Okay, I read that, and there you guys go. But see, that what that does is it says, okay, hey, it's not just a sound on the computer. It could be a text message, right? It could be also potentially emailed to you as well. The whole idea here, folks, is to be aware when it comes up. And I think alerts could be a useful tool on the platform to help us in that regard. All right. Have you guys had enough of the cup and handles? No, not at all. We're just getting started, believe it or not. This is a long downward move. This is SLB. By the way, that's unlimited, or that's max. Let's get off of that guy for a second. Let's get back to a 1 year. Do you see it now? This is actually, okay, if we're looking at the lower sort of a cup and handle over here, we did get up to sort of this range right here. There's going to be a lot of different variations here. There's actually maybe even a longer one here that we're still developing, and maybe We're just like at a power 3 level right now. And this is the ultimate handle. When we say cup and handle, that's just really code word for at the end of the cup and handle, the potential for a flag. Okay? That's what it is. Because the end of it is this. The beginning of it is this. The middle of it is the rounded pattern. Could be island reversal, could be inverted head and shoulders pattern. Just basically could be a rounded bottom. A lot of patterns within the cup and handle, but we're waiting, and we might have gotten from a smaller scale. This could be initial 1 cup and handle. Yeah. I mean, it did rally very, very nicely off this level. But the bottom line is we've come out of a long-term basis, the way I like to look at this. We've been consolidating for just a bit here. Again, these can take some time. This is most of the year, really, in consolidation. We went down to a longer period of time, and now we're rallying outside of that range. And we'll see what happens here, and we'll see if we, get some confirmation days or whatever the case might be. But yeah, you're looking at maybe resting at a prior high over here too. One quick note on this I just have to state is that you want to keep maybe an eye on energy as well. Some of the prices for oil have been down quite a bit, which is great for all of us at the pump, right? It allows us to have more money for other things. But if you put it in the side of SLB, it used to be Schlumberger, I just have to say that it might not always be the best. So just be mindful of that for sure. Okay, TRGP. Kind of similar. What do these guys do? Hold on. Are they also in? I'll have to just go right over here and just take a quick look at this. Analyze fundamentals, and we can see right there. Okay, so this too is right in that energy kind of area. So be mindful of some of these companies that come in here. Energy, it can be one to keep an eye on. We don't know if it's going to reverse just simply and go higher from here, whatever the case might be. Okay, Tesla breakout pattern. What was the price pattern behind it though? TSLA. Tesla. Okay. Sometimes you get these cup and handles up higher here. This was really kind of a short-term one. Notice I had this longer-term triangle. These are so cool to look at. Notice a lot of times it will move right when you get the apex, and that's exactly what happened right there too. As soon as these 2 lines off the bottom met, lower trend line, folks, upper trend line, when they do converge, it's referred to as the apex of the triangle, and you get it right, boom, boom, boom. Okay. We'd had this drawn a while ago. This is one we were talking about. I don't think it was in this class. It might have been the swing trade class. Anyways, folks, there's a lot to look at here. Be mindful of, the different scenarios and setups, folks. If you got value out of today's presentation, as we're just drawing down in time here, do me a favor, smash that like button. Lets us know that you did find it helpful and informative, folks. As always, give us a follow on Trader Talks as well. Love to have you guys on board if you are interested here. Again, remember Kevin's classes, those early morning classes, getting us all started off right here in the Trader Talks channel. He does a great job with it as well. A quick note, if you do like kind of those price patterns, I do have this class over here. It is the swing trading class, the coaching on the coaching channel. You can get that where I'm at right here. And you get Kevin's in here too. Of course, yeah, right under playlists. So just go to the Trader Talks channel. I'll put that on for you guys so I'll share that so you all have it right there at your fingertips. Love to have you subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Folks, 175,000 plus subscribers. Love to have you on board. I know many of you are. Really appreciate the discussion today. Thank you, Kevin, very much for your help in the chat. And no surveys today, folks, that I saw. We're all set and free. Ready to go. Folks, have a great rest of the day, and we'll look forward to future discussions with you. Take care.